Morning, Lynn.
Good morning. I'm multitasking. Hi,
That's okay.
Arthur.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How about you?
Busy and overall good. Yeah. Hey, Adriana.
You know, I'll try to remember the rest of this, Arthur, but I just gave your name to someone who was really excited about looking you up and meeting you. I think it might be the new woman who's working with Stephanie Larson at UCCE. I think that her name is Sashi. So if you hear from a Sashi, that's
Okay. I'll look for that. Yeah. Thanks. Hey, Judy. Yeah, I've been especially you'll see an email from me, especially busy with this huge development proposal that's going on in Glen Ellen. So I'm on the advisory council, so we're doing what we can, but it's a difficult situation, but I think it also has relevance to other parts of the county, because if Permit Snow is going to try to ram 1,000 homes down our throat in Glen Ellen, which is extremely engaged community. I don't know what that says about other small communities in the county. You know, it's a complicated issue, and we do support housing. We just don't support 1,000 homes. We want to see more like 400, which would keep us as a rural community as defined by the census, which.
You know that I grew up in Glen Ellen, and
Oh, you did?
and in my youth, it was the state hospital, and it was the major employer for the valley, I think for the entire valley. But it was so different because it was a farm, and it had an active farm and an active dairy and trade schools. I mean, it had there were a lot of bad reasons that it was as big as an institution as it was, but it certainly had a lot of opportunities for the community. And that's what I'm glad that you're trying to reestablish it in a responsible way.
Well, thanks. Yeah. It's quite I've never been in this situation. I never really played politics like this before, but trying to make contacts with state representatives and, reaching out to as many different groups as we can, trying to form partnerships with various people. And but basically, the letter that we wrote to the supervisors is supported by, I haven't heard anybody who's really against having less houses there in the community. It's only the county and the state that are pushing for more. Anyway, that's a little off to the side of what we're talking about today, but yeah, if you have signed the petition, thank you.
Nice. Well, we'll just wait a couple more minutes for everyone to come on.
I'm going to leave pretty early. I've been waiting for a tile setter to tile my kitchen cabinet since before Thanksgiving. Everybody is so busy, and of course he's coming today, and so I'll be able to participate for a while. But when he gets there, I think I'm going to have to sign off.
Okay, Judy. Well, I'll have you go first for the updates.
Oh, okay.
Just so you can have it out of the way.
And I'll probably only stick around for half an hour, 45 minutes. I would like to do longer, but too much stuff to do.
Yeah,
but
totally.
A lot of stuff going on right now.
Yeah. Okay, we'll wait one more minute.
Lynn, are you connected with Garrick Road? Is that your family?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, my dad and my grandfather built that road.
Okay, yeah.
Have you lived continuously in the county for most of your life, Lynn?
I was born and raised in Glen Ellen, yes. I lived in Paris for a while and then decided that as lovely as France is, I actually want to just be here. So yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Paris, Glen Ellen, they're pretty comparable.
Hard choice.
Good wine, yeah.
Okay, well, I guess we'll go ahead and get started and maybe more people will filter in. But good morning, everyone. I hope your year is off to a good start. I know it's been really busy for a lot of people and it sounds like no different in this group. So good luck with everything you're working on. And thanks for making some time to come together and discuss forest conservation issues. So Judy, why don't you kick us off with your updates? What have you been up to?
Oh, a lot. Devin came up on Sunday and did a burn on Creighton Ridge. And Sasha Brolman came up with her crew yesterday to check out our pilot project at Fernfield Road, looking at we're doing a burn there, a community burn and training, chainsaw training on Sunday. So I've been coordinating that this morning with Sasha. That's pretty exciting. We have about 11 acres. Fred Ufrat came with Drew Loganville and Stephanie Larson and Marshall, and we created this Fernfield as a pilot project for burning, manual and mechanical fuels reduction and grazing. So we've done the fuels reduction, we've done grazing, we're bringing this, after this burn, we'll be bringing in cows. We've had sheep there in the past and goats. So that's exciting, getting that project off the road. Brooke Edwards really worked with us last year to pull it together with the Good Fire Alliance, and thankful, we're thankful to Carol Leone for bringing them up this weekend, and they're saying, yeah, we can come on Sunday. So we have that going on. Our chipper, we got our chipper. We have the guys at another training last week, and they'll be taking it out to one of our ranch projects mid-February for a demonstration. That's going on. We did have a meeting last week, a grant planning meeting with Marshall for projects along the Sonoma coast, from Munez to Timber Cove right now. We've outreached to Kashai and they've gotten back to us. So we're going to figure out how to bring them in with their projects. And so we're looking at how to delineate these grants and projects and who's, what best would go to the county. We have CAL FIRE, we have fire prevention, we have forest health. I have a meeting set up next week with the forest health grant manager to talk about doing a forest health grant with including a CAL VTP for our whole project area. I met with Ascent yesterday by phone to talk about the VTP and what that would entail and how to put that proposal together. That's a big learning curve. And so that's pretty exciting. We are, the biggest obstacle for us along the coast right now is the projects in the coastal zone, and especially Timber Cove. One of the, the east side of the road, most of it is not in the zone. The west side of the road is mostly in the coastal zone. And that's frustrating, especially for their fire chief and their groups out there. But we're looking at, what we can do, and how we can work with them. So Marshall suggested, and we're going to be holding monthly meetings, all of us along the coast here, to continue talking about our projects and work how we can work together, collaboratively, what projects really work well together, which ones are good standalone projects. And so we will be having monthly meetings so that as funding comes around, we're already in tune. We've got a lot of on the ground projects right now that we're working with. And so that's pretty exciting. One of the big things we're doing now is getting the access agreements out to all of our landowners, specifically those on Fort Ross Road. And thanks to Jay Kessel, is that how you pronounce his name? From Circuit Riders, he sent us a good template to use. And so that's being sent out actually on Monday. And then we have a group of people who will be following up by phone, in person, and email. And that's it for right now. And it just seems overwhelming. There's a lot going on, but it's all exciting. So that's what we're doing out here on the coast.
Judy, this kind of reminds me, and we can talk about it in the funding portion of the meeting, but NCRP is offering assistance for grant writing, and they focus on disadvantaged communities along the coast. So, you know, along with Kashaya, you guys might be a good candidate for something like that. And I'm happy to forward that information along if you haven't already come across it.
I did, and thank you. In fact, I'm working on that right now. We got an NCRP grant to put the last grant proposal together, and partnered with the RCD for Jason Wells services to assist with planning and writing the grant. So we do need a lead agency for that. Jason is just incredibly busy right now. And so we're going to be working, our MAC group has a meeting this evening, and we're going to try to pull the county in and see how we can possibly work with them as well. So thank you. That's a great resource. And just FYI, we did not get funded, and nor did Stephanie Larson for her project. And so I called them, this was last year, and said, you know, can you tell us why we didn't get funded? What's going on? And basically they did not have technical assistance in this area, so they didn't know what to do with us. And by the time we ended that phone call, we got the funding we needed. So hopefully, I know they sent out that request for certification. And I think if you know of anyone, because they can't sole source the work. And so, which is why we couldn't use Matt Green for that project, who has been our project forester all along. So I know that they did send out the proposal, and if you know of anyone who might want to do that work, I would suggest that they get that proposal in, the request. So thank you, Gianna, and I think it's good to put that word out there too to the working group.
Yeah, and if I haven't already sent it, I'll send it again, the advertisement. But yeah, I talked to Catherine Gledhill last week about a potential project, and she said that basically what they want everyone who has a project to do is find a service agent, you know, like a forester or someone that they might want to work with, and encourage them to apply as a service provider. So yeah, it's kind of like matching people up. And but yeah, I know a lot of foresters are really busy right now, so they may be hard to find.
So let me ask you just real quick, did she say that they could sole source the work to a forester?
You know, it sounded like they were open to something like that. Like it was just, if you had a forester in mind who was available and interested, they should just apply to be a TA, technical assistant, and they would take it from there. I don't know all the details, but.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, and Catherine, who I talked to, is really very accessible. So just reach out to her with any more questions. Okay, great. Awesome. Arthur, how are you doing? What's up?
I'm doing all right. I'm busy as well. I've made a little bit of progress on the CAL FIRE project I'm working on, but haven't hit any more milestones. And the reason for that, which I just sent an email to you guys, which some of you may have already seen, is back in November, Permits Sonoma put out their alternatives for the Sonoma Developmental Center, which is the old state hospital in Glen Ellen. And they're talking about developing 180 acres. As a member of the Municipal Advisory Council, which is kind of the bottom rung of the county government, it's all volunteer, of course. So we wrote a response to that. I mean, the community is up in arms. It's just, it would double or triple the size of Glen Ellen. Which is, it was supposed to be consistent with the surrounding community. And it's, anyway, I could go on and on about that. But I think what's especially relevant for this group, which you'll see this in my email, is it's, they're talking about putting 1,000 homes basically in the WUI, in a community that was one of the hardest hit by the Nuns fire in 2017. So they're really putting all these homes in harm's way. They're so far have not really made a good evacuation plan. They're just sort of ignoring the community's voice, which is, this is supposed to be a community supported plan, and they just don't seem to listen to us. And we've been talking about this for 7 years or more. But the good thing is we now have an official advisory body, so that holds a little bit more weight. And I guess the thing for other parts of the county is if they're going to do this to the small community of Glen Ellen, then it seems like they could do this to just about anywhere in the county. They can just ignore the community and barrel ahead, because it's complicated. There's states involved and the county's involved, so it is complicated. I will acknowledge that. But they just seem to be putting money ahead of everything else, and it doesn't matter that 80–90% of the people in Sonoma Valley do not want a development of the size they're talking about. We're okay with this much smaller development, but we don't want to see something that size. So just something, it seems crazy to me. It seems crazy to me that we rebuilt in Fountain Grove after that burned down, or that it just sort of proceeded without really much thought. So it's similar kind of situation. It's like, if you put a house in the floodplain and you don't know it's a floodplain, that's one thing. But once it floods and it's a floodplain and you keep rebuilding, that just seems kind of crazy. And that's kind of what this feels like. So anyway, check out my email. And if you're willing, sign a petition. The supervisors are meeting on Tuesday, and I'm hoping to have 1,000 signatures on the petition. And we're already at about 700, so we're getting close. And the advisory council is supposed to be the community's voice. So the letter that we wrote really is supported by, years of conversations and tons of participation by the community and meetings of up to 300 people. So it really is what the community wants. It really does represent the community. But if you can, I think anywhere in the county, you could consider yourself a stakeholder in this, because lots of reasons. I won't go on, but check out my email, and if you feel inclined, please sign the petition. Thanks.
Thanks, Arthur. Carol Leon, good morning.
How are we?
Doing
All right,
good. Good to see you.
today's kind of a discombobulated day. Oh, can you give me share? Can I share, please?
Yes, hold on one sec. Okay, you should be good.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming here today. Nothing like starting at the end and moving forwards, right? So I just wanted to give you guys a quick update on the CWPP, which has moved into draft review stage. Hint, hint, that means you. The project was completed with a grant that Permit Sonoma and Sonoma County Fire Prevention got from hazard mitigation grant funds from FEMA. Fire Safe Sonoma, CAL FIRE was very much involved, and we really owe a huge debt of thanks to our contractor, Esther Mandino in Digital Mapping Solutions, who were awesome. So, 3 minimum requirements for a CWPP per the Healthy Forest Restoration Act of Congress in 2003. It has to be collaborative. It has to identify areas for hazardous fuels reduction, recommend types and methods of treatment, and recommend measures to reduce the ignitability of structures. So that's all we really have to do, but we did some more. The
Carolina,
yeah,
I was just gonna say, are you showing us a presentation?
I'm trying to.
Okay, well, we're looking at maybe your second screen. You're just your desktop.
Okay, I must be showing you the wrong screen. Hold on. Thanks for letting me know.
Yep, no worries.
This would be the screen. You'll like this better.
I mean, your desktop was pretty clean. I was impressed.
It's because I just popped into the office. Now, do you see purpose of this CWPP?
Yes.
Excellent. So the purpose is to bring together wildland urban interface residents to collectively identify wildfire issues and prioritize strategies. So it's really all about bringing people into the same room to have these conversations. We've done a lot of updating from the 2016 CWPP, which was signed right before everything changed in 2017. And this CWPP, we're really trying to reflect the changed conditions in Sonoma County. It exists in sort of two levels. One, there's a print version, if you will, that's as a PDF. Lots of updates, lots of new information in here. But really the coolest part of this is the interactive story map, or hub site, as we call it, which is where all the fun mapping stuff and the risk analysis and all of that lives on the hub site. And I cannot recommend enough that you go and check all of that out. I'll walk you through a couple of things really quickly. We created a wildland fire risk index, which was created in junction with the hazard index, which was created for the multi-jurisdiction hazard mitigation plan. A hazard index looks at how likely is fire, how big is what are the fuels, how big are the flames going to be, what's going to be the rate of spread. So it looks at the fire stuff. When you do a risk index, you add the human element. So we've added things like evacuation route, potential problematic evacuation routes, structure density, the human element. So we have this new thing, and I'll show it to you. We updated the ranking tool. Some of you know that really well, which is a portal for people to enter projects with the ultimate goal, please, 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 of we have all the projects across the county in one site, which will really help all of us figure out priority projects in a more collaborative way. We've held meetings in all 5 advisory districts, done continued outreach, especially with the help of Fire Safe Sonoma. And now we have the draft CWPP is ready to go and ready for your review. The meetings for the public review are going on now. I'll give you the dates in a minute. Our next step is to present it to the board for signature after we receive all comments, which are due no later than February 28th. So you have until February 28th to put comments in the document, and I'll show you where to do that in a minute. After that, we'll annex the CWPP into the multi-jurisdiction hazard mitigation plan, and hopefully we'll be doing ongoing maintenance of the hub site and updates to the appendices of the CWPP and updates to the project lists on an annual or biannual basis into the future. That will keep this a living document, which is really, really important to do. So here are the tools that are on the hub site. And these are just, there's so many awesome tools in here. And it's honestly really fun to go here and play around. So the ones that I want to show you today in the interest of time are going to be, okay, where am I? Here I am. The hub site, I'll pop the addresses into the chat in a while, but we have 2 websites. This is our county website. This is where you can sign up for meetings, review the draft, do all that good stuff. And you can link to the hub site from here. The hub site has all the fun stuff. It has current information, all of the mapping resources. This is a grant that's open and available to help people write stuff. So we posted that on there. All kinds of information about wildfire retrofitting. And the very bottom of the page are all of the existing CWPPs, which are being annexed into the countywide, so that everybody's CWPP counts so long as we know it exists, and they're all linked here on the hub site. But what I wanted to kind of run over today really quickly, the Wildfire Risk Index, go in there, take a look at it, read all the stuff on what the inputs were that give a given area the ranking. But in interest of time, I'm going to pop over here to the WRI statistic page, because this is where the fun stuff is that I think most of you will find extremely useful. So you're going to open up like that. And what this tool does is it allows you to pop into an area anywhere you pick it. Let's grab this because it'll be quick. So if you go over here, this thing is always in the way. This is so annoying. Go over here and you grab the little, see this little exclamation point on the top. Give one click to that. And that's going to open up your drawing tools. And then you can open up either a line, draw a line around an area. I like the polygon tool. So you can click on this little box on the bottom to get your polygon tool. And now if what we want to do is a project in here that starts at this ridge, we can just click, move, and we're running along this ridge. And every time you click, you're going to change direction a little bit. And you go all the way down to there, and we want our project to go to there, but we want to get these houses and these houses. So you can make a relatively complex shape very easily. I'm going stealth now. Double click to complete. And now what is very cool is for this area down here on this bottom row, we now can access these are the wildfire risk index, which we created for the CWPP. This is kind of low and the average is 2, a risk index of 2. This is in the state responsibility area. So we also have what is the CAL FIRE average hazard, which is moderate or 1. It'll give you the population statistics. How many people are in this polygon? How many of them are seniors? What's the diversity index, the Spanish population percentage, and percentage below poverty? And this is what people really get excited about often. This tool actually identifies all of the parcels and gives you all of the assessor's parcel numbers for all of the parcels in your polygon. Very, very handy for project design. So this tool, I think, will really help people to design really great projects and move on. Ideally, what you're doing with these projects is going into the project ranking tool, which looks like this, to enter your projects onto the map for the countywide map. And to do that, there's a survey in here that you have to go through and fill out. It's a little time consuming. It's kind of a sorting hat. How well have you thought this out? It's hard to do this if you don't have a well-developed project. So what we want is well-developed projects. So I apologize for the time it takes. The Open Space District is using this year, so a lot of you are already familiar with it. And it produces a great list in Google Sheets format. And also, if you go down to the bottom of the page and click on this, you can see the projects that have been entered so far. And I know there are a lot of projects that aren't in here that I want to have in there. Admittedly, some of them my projects, okay? But eventually we'll have all of the projects in the county mapped in one place. That enables us to jump in here and like go, oh man, there's absolutely nothing over here. We need to do some outreach. We need to do some education. I think it's going to be a really valuable thing to have everybody's projects all in one place so that they can be collaboratively looked at. And we can really use this information to make sure that the best projects are being distributed equally across the county. So that is what all of this does. And it's exciting. It's pretty cool. The maps are all really fun. So I really recommend that you take them and bang around. Now, what we really need for you to do now, however, is comment on the review draft. So if you go to our website, and I'll paste it, but if you just Google Sonoma County CWPP, it'll pop right up. Here's the review draft. So you're gonna pop in here. And this is gonna take you to a collaborative commenting document that's in PDF format. And you'll have to sign in. You can find there is a way to do anonymous comments, but we do keep track of who's making what comment. And then you can just pop in, read through the document as much as you would like to. It's about 90 pages long. with a couple hundred pages of appendices. So if you really don't have a lot of time, read the executive summary. If you have enough time to read the document, it's actually a really cool document, a lot of great information. You can read through that, and please feel free to make any comments on it as you go through. The other opportunity that you have to make comments is in a district meeting. A couple of them have already come and gone. District 2 in Petaluma, Santa Rosa was last night, but tonight is Supervisor Gorin, District 1, 6 o'clock. The 26th is District 4, Supervisor Gore, and District 5, Supervisor Hopkins is on the 27th. You can sign up, register for all of these meetings on our webpage. You just have to scroll down to the bottom of the page, and here are the registration links. All of the meetings will be posted to Permit Sonoma's YouTube channel as well. So sorry you guys to talk so like nobody can get a word in edgewise because I'm talking really fast. But I can now pause, take a breath, and ask if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Carleon. The meetings that you just talked about, I imagine the same information is going to be covered in those meetings. There might be some specifics to the district, but should we attend just one to get the gist of what's being conveyed, or if we're interested in multiple districts, should we sign up for all those?
So like last night, the meeting for the Santa Rosa area was a relatively small crowd. There were 25 people there or something. So in that meeting, we didn't. So what we do is we have a standard blah, 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 you know, PowerPoint. This is what we're doing. It's kind of the long version of what I just did.
Yeah.
And then we break out and have open comment from folks.
Okay.
People show up. Nobody was talking last night. It was super uncomfortable. We're just in there going, hey guys, what do you think? Will someone have a question, comment, whatever, talk to us. So the more people who were there kind of encouraging people to dialogue, the more comfortable those meetings will be, preferably with kind comments. That's helpful. So it's going to depend on the district. If you have a lot of property you're interested in District 4 and District 5, you might want to go to both of those because the comment sections are going to be where the meat of that is. If you were, you know, you could always ping in a little late, miss the presentation on the second one.
Right.
And again, do the discussion if you wanted to, but that's how they're set up.
Great, thanks.
So again, comments are due by the 28th of February, after which we will be incorporating comments as appropriate and fixing the document. And we're hoping to present it for signature to the Board of Supervisors and the other folks signing it on Wildfire Prevention Week, the first week of May. That's May 3rd. So we're hoping that is the way it all works out. So there you go. That was the Cook's tour of the CWPP. Thanks for fitting me in. I appreciate your time.
Mm-hmm.
That was great. Carleon, I'm sorry if I missed it, but if someone realizes that they really want their project to be in there, but it isn't in there yet, is that something that they should do after this version is finalized or before?
Do it before the 28th.
Okay, so it can be considered a comment.
Use the portal for a period on the 28th.
Okay.
Then we'll probably reopen it at some point because we want those projects to come in.
Mm-hmm.
But we do need to have a stopping point for this signature document. And then we'll sort of figure out how we're going to work that into the future, whatever the group is that comes together to really look at those. Clearly, that is not a single agency. That shouldn't be a single agency decision. That should be a lot of us working together to look at this stuff across disciplines and across jurisdictions.
Any other questions for Carleon? If not, thank you so much. That's really helpful. And we just are, I really appreciate having your, pop in every month or so and let us know how this is going, because it's such an important project. So great. Okay.
Ready?
All right, Kim, you are next on my screen. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks, Carleon. That was a great presentation. I was going to elaborate on a little bit more detail about the Vegetation Management Grant Program. For those who don't know me, I'm Kim Batchelder. I work with the Sonoma County Ag and Open Space, and I'm the Vegetation Management Coordinator right now. And so I thought I'd go ahead and just kind of follow up on Carleon's comment that we're going to be applying using the project ranking tool for our selection of the 2022 vegetation management grants for this year. So to me, it's just it's a great tool. It's really taking advantage of a resource that the county has invested in to develop this tool. And the project ranking tool helps us to really be objective and transparent about what criteria we want to consider when we're looking at all these different projects. And so last year, you might remember we received 95 different grant applications, and we were able to fund only 20 of those. So it is helpful to be able to sift through all these different projects and just make sure that we're all kind of talking to one another and collaborating. I think that's one of the biggest things we want to emphasize is there's a lot of different interests, a lot of different projects. There's a limited amount of funding to be able to support all the different projects. So we really want people to be thoughtful and collaborative and show the organizational capacity to be able to do a project on the ground. So I'm mentioning this because January 25th is our 23rd. Let's start that over again. January 23rd at 5 p.m. is the deadline for the Vegetation Management Grant Program, okay? So if you need further information, please visit Ag and Open Space's website, sonomaopenspace.org. And you can look at the our impact section under vegetation management, and you'll have most of the information you need. And you can always send me an email if you have any questions, okay? So I'll go ahead and leave it at that, and be happy to answer any questions. Go ahead, Lynn.
So I think I'm a little confused about how the projects in the hub and the ranking tool for the grants, how they are the same or different. And here's my question. We submitted projects, we put projects into the CWPP. We did our polygons, we did that some time ago. Then as we develop a grant application, we come up with better ideas. We think of ways to enrich it. We add an education component that maybe we hadn't thought of before. So I have two questions. One is, should we be going back and amending what we put in and adding to it? That's one question. And then Kim, when you review grants, are you using what's been submitted, or are you looking at those grants and evaluating them according to your criteria and according to the ranking tool from what you read in the grants that are submitted, if that makes sense?
Those are great questions. I'm going to ask Carleon to address what you do with the projects that's already been submitted, and then I'll follow up with how the grant program is using this information, okay?
Great, thank you.
It's the first time this question has come up. Ren, you are so good for that. Thank you. I would say, I mean, you're refining the project. So clearly we want the more refined version. So I would say that at some point we want to pull the old one out and update it with the new one. Kim's, they have a couple of questions on their side that we don't have on our side. So exactly how we're gonna marry these two things remains to be seen. We may have to pull his extra questions onto ours, which people are already a little cranky about how long it takes these projects. So that's not going to be a popular choice, but that might be what we have to do. Or we drop, Kim and I will have to figure that out around that. But yeah, I would say that at the end of the day, it should be one project, whichever the most complete one is. And that will also reflect things like, yes, we're seeking funding for this project here, because that is one of the questions that we ask. Or are you thinking about, have you submitted this for funding? And clearly, if it's coming off of Kim's side, yes, you have submitted it for funding because that's why it's here. So that's going to be the updated one. So probably what we'll end up doing is pulling out your old one, using the updated version. But there is going to be
And
some
so-
figuring out to do.
Yeah. So what you're saying, Carleone, is it's not as simple as going back in and amending what we did. It's really taking an old one out and putting a new one in.
I'm guessing that might actually be easier in the long run. This is an Esther question, really, because Esther's been the one who's been driving the Survey 123 on this. And she'll know better which is going to be. My guess is that it might be easier just to drop the new one in. You know what we might end up doing, Kim, is that we make your additional questions non-required on our form. That way it'll all be there, but it's just non-required on my form, or we just require them all. But because it just seems like it's probably easier since you have to put it in again anyway.
Right.
Just to use the new one and ditch the old one, unless it's significantly different.
Right, that sounds good.
But
So let me
thanks for
explain
bringing that
how the Vegetation Management Grant Program manages it and how it relates to the CWPP. With Carleone's permission, we created a unique portal into the tool so that it is only the applicants to our Vegetation Management Grant Program, okay? So we ask you to fill out and complete this tool via our website, okay? That's the way you access the project ranking tool. And that will allow us to see not only how you fare up in the rankings based on all the criteria that the CWPP asked for, but we added, I think, 7 additional criteria that address issues about the sustainability of the project, whether you're addressing projects that are in an area of communities that are vulnerable, whether there's a component to demonstrate the environmental sensitivity, the protection of watersheds, or that type of thing. So those are the last questions on the ranking tools list. And so once a project completes their project proposal, they go through the ranking tool, I automatically get notified that that ranking tool form has been completed. And then I can use that as an additional element of our analysis of all the different project proposals. So, so that essentially is how it works. There are a couple of projects that came up recently that are working countywide, educational programs, or maybe defensible space education, that type of thing. And so what Carleone and I discuss is maybe focusing just on, since it doesn't have a physical location, is just to highlight the Sonoma Airport as to anchor the project. It gives you, because the project ranking tool helps, auto-populates in some rankings. And so some of those don't apply. So obviously acreage, you're not going to include the whole county, and or ranking tool. So there's some things that don't apply for an educational project, for instance, but we still want to list it as part of, go through the ranking tool, and it helps Carleone figure out how that fits into the grand scheme of the CWPP. So while the ranking tool via the grant program is not going to go auto-populate into the CWPP project list, we will eventually kind of batch load that data into the system. That's one of the upsides of this, but we'll do some filtering so we have a good project list to be able to add to the CWPP project list, okay? But it doesn't go in there automatically.
So what I hear you saying, Kim, is in the application process, using the tools that are online for the application, you're going to wind up with the most recent, best version of what the project now is, right?
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great.
Okay, that's the importance of loading it up as soon as you finish your application, submit your application, then you go through the project ranking tool and it gets into our database. Okay,
Great. Thank you.
great question. Thank you.
And if I can
Any
throw
other
in just really quickly too, I want to thank everybody for all their patience with this. This is a pretty unique tool. This is something that really nobody that I know of has done anything quite like this. And so we are, to some degree, making it up as we go along. And what we want to do is make this better. And comments and questions like this are really important to do that. So I really want to encourage people, if they're running into snags or do let us know, because this is, it's not written in stone. We want it to work. So make sure and let us know what works and what doesn't, and if you have ideas, because this is a collaborative tool. Yay! Thank you.
And that's all I got. Thanks, folks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kim. And Shanti, you're next. How are you?
Hey everybody, sorry, it took me a minute to find the mute. So at Sonoma Land Trust, we're working regionally, and so there's kind of a lot of activity across our entire stewardship team. And so, for example, with the Sonoma Valley Wildlands Collaborative, Joe Plogger is working for Sonoma Land Trust, but is also wears the hat of being the lead for the collaborative and coordinating projects in the Sonoma Valley. And then on the North County side, Melina Hammer is working on forest management treatments at our Laufenberg Ranch and Live Oaks Ranch. And those two properties are kind of batched with our Sonoma Coast preserves of Little Black Mountain and Pole Mountain preserves, where we're working on a CalVTP for those lands. And we're getting close to the finish line with that project, where we've worked with Ascent Environmental to develop the treatment descriptions and develop like the map of the fuel breaks and ecological restoration areas. And within those properties, we've already conducted quite a few rounds of fuels management treatments along the ranch roads, so shaded fuel break projects on all of the ranches. But we're trying to kind of think of the larger landscape and how we can go beyond just the core areas and think about kind of a larger impact in terms of forest health and community safety for the rural residential neighborhoods that fringe our properties. And so at this point, we're currently implementing the projects we've already designed, but thinking ahead to how we're going to take the next steps with the CalVTP. And so trying to figure out funding for kind of the next plan, and so that where there are gaps with the VTP. So I guess that's kind of what we're thinking about as we plan for the year ahead. And so I think from our last meeting with that Judy pulled together, all the groups got matched with a grant opportunity. And I just want to give kudos to Judy and Marshall for conducting that meeting on the coast and really organizing a really dispersed population to just really get on the same page. So we're super excited to be a part of that on the coast. And yeah, stay tuned. We're going to be implementing the shaded fuel break project at Little Black Mountain this coming winter. And that's thanks to State Coastal Conservancy and NRCS support. So that's kind of what I have right now.
Awesome, thank you. How about Jill, are you there?
Sorry, I'm here, just muted. So Jill Butler, representing Wallowa River Watershed Council. We had a small informal meeting earlier this week, and Ron also attended. So Ron, pipe in if you have anything to add. Not a lot is new at the council. I would say the main thing on people's minds there is kind of grappling with what's going on with salmonid fisheries there, and the loss of the funding sources that have been used for fisheries work in the past, because NOAA and State Fish and Wildlife have determined that the Wallowa River watershed doesn't have any salmonids. So, so that's a pretty big change. And our council has always been focused primarily on fisheries. So hopefully this Wallowa River Collaborative Project that Sonoma RCD is spearheading will be an opportunity to both, identify some priorities and hopefully some new funding sources for fisheries work. And I think we'll also be broadening our mission and I suspect getting more involved in fuels reduction and fire safety and forestry type projects in the future. So that's about it. And I do want to really compliment Caroleon and Kim on this new mapping tool that they're using for their projects is just stunning. And I look forward to seeing what's showing up on it for Wallowa River watershed. And that's all I.
All right, great. Thanks, Jill. And how about Mason?
Hi everyone, Happy New Year. Let's see, not much to update on. Well, one thing is for Fire Safe Sonoma, we have a Fire Alliance meeting later today, 2 o'clock. We're gonna have David Henry of Team Rubicon here present at the meeting. A little bit about Team Rubicon. They're just, from what I understand, a volunteer, mostly veteran response force. So they respond to disasters, just help out with logistics and whatnot. So they sound pretty cool, and I'm looking forward to hearing them today. Another big update for Fire Safe Sonoma is that we are looking for an executive coordinator. We just sent that job announcement out on email for those of you who are on our email list, and I just posted that on the website as well. So yeah, I guess that announcement and the application for that is now live. So yeah, just a couple of things there. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Nice, thanks for sharing. Yeah, if you would send me the email with that job opportunity, I'll send it out to the group.
Okay, yeah, do that.
Thanks, Mason. All right, Brooke.
Hey you guys, Brooke Edwards with Regional Parks, and a couple updates. Right now in Shiloh Ranch Regional Park, we're working with the California Conservation Corps to put in shaded fuel breaks along the kind of the core trail system of Shiloh. So we're working about 50 feet off of the trail system. And so that will be happening over the course of the next couple of months. And really the longer term goal is to get these shaded fuel breaks along the trails so that at some point we can return good fire to that park and use those trails and shaded fuel breaks as control lines. Along with that, I have started working on the Cal VTP process for Shiloh and Foothill. Just started that. Hopefully we'll get more information, more knowledge about how that program works. And then the other thing that we just did was put in for a grant for State Coastal Conservancy to put in a shaded fuel break on our Monoreal Redwoods property. You also might know it as the Tor property or Dutchville Creek property. It's had a couple different names. We're now calling it Monoreal Redwoods. And so really just above that property is one of the main ridge lines above the town of Monte Rio. And that used to be an old historic fire break. And so Steve Baxman, Ben Nichols are interested in reestablishing the fuel break up there. And so one of the main access roads goes through Monte Rio Redwoods property. So we just put in a proposal to the Conservancy to implement shaded fuel break along that access road that would get you up to that west ridge above Monte Rio. There's a small section of that ridge on the property, and so that's part of our proposal. And I think that's about 27 acres of shaded fuel break if we get the funding to put that in. And then, you know, long-term also, that's another property that we'd be looking at developing a Cal VTP for as well, so that we have CEQA covered for everything in terms of implementing shaded fuel break to burning to maintenance and covering all of that. So, and then the other thing is we are compiling all of our projects together, and we will be uploading that to the county-wide protection plan. So hopefully within a week or two, you will see all of that data populated onto that plan. And we will be providing a couple of inputs, revisions or something to the CWPP. So Carol Leona will be in touch in the next couple of weeks so that we can meet that February 28th deadline. That's it for me.
Great, thanks. You know, I'm hearing like at least 3 of us are working on Cal VTPs, and everyone's like, it's really intimidating. Let's see how it goes. Like, I'm wondering if we want to have a workshop on that. Maybe, I don't know, something like that would be helpful, but I'm curious what all is included in that and might be helpful to you guys too.
Yeah, I think so. That would be helpful. Maybe just a support group, you know, so we can commiserate with each other.
Definitely. How long do you think the process will take? Any idea?
You know, it all depends for us on what surveys we need to consult out. So we have staff that can do a lot of the biological surveys, but then obviously we have to do like a full ARC report or survey and report. So it's really going, at least for me, my understanding is I'm starting to go through that checklist. That's going to highlight what additional surveys we need to do, but I would like to have Shiloh and Foothill done and turned in for review and approval really by the end of the summer.
Okay, all right, not too bad. I mean, at least 6 months. But, yeah, all right, awesome. And Devin, you're up next.
Hi everyone, sorry I was late, was on another meeting call. Good to see all your faces. Pepperwood update. Doing a pile burn workshop this Saturday. It's already filled up, but if you are interested in learning more about pile burning, put your name on the wait list, and then it'll just show us that there's interest. Yeah, just going to be covering some of the permits that you need to do it and just kind of some good practices. We are also in the process of applying for Ag and Open Space grant, Coastal Commission grant, and I believe our Cwpp funding we just submitted. So waiting on a bunch of funding to see if we can do another 4 years of our forest thinning. In terms of the last 2 projects that we had thinned, we are almost, our forester from CAL FIRE just told us that we're just waiting on the one final signature and it should be done, but we heard that like 2 months ago for our VMP. So we're really hopeful. We're getting a nice winter drying window, so we're hoping that if all our ducks line up, we will maybe be able to get our units burned in early February to mid-February. Not holding my breath, but hopefully taking advantage of this drying window. And then we've kind of planned out the next 4 years of forest thinning with followed up with prescribed fire. Yeah, reporting out on invasive species has been really cool. We've been doing some really intensive record keeping of all our invasive species management, and we have about like 3 years of good data now post fire. So seeing some like interesting trends. If anybody's ever interested in talking about invasive species, I'm always happy to talk about that. Yeah, so it's been busy in the office, and I'm looking at the beautiful outside, and we're just wishing I could do field work. But that's what January is for, office stuff. And we're also in the process of transitioning into a new grazer and working on some new fencing projects, as most of our fencing has been pretty destroyed from our fires. So that will, we're in this process and learning a lot about grazing techniques. Excuse the noise, I'll shut up now. All right, bye.
Great, thanks, Devin. Always lots to do. Hi, Ron, how are you? Oh, and you're on mute.
Yeah, pretty good. I've been listening, and I was at the Guala meeting, and it's funny how I'm really impressed with Carleon and Kim with the data bank, because for years I've been meeting with the old timers and all, and there's all this anecdotal history and very non-uniform record keeping in the past, or inconsistent. And, there's stories about this and that, and I have a few of my own, but I like the idea that we have the website and we can look in and have data that we can verify, because the past is gone. I don't know if we can even relate to some of the things that happened, but I like the fact that we're getting all this information from everybody here and getting it down and build on it. And Sonoma RCD is meeting next Thursday, so I'll find out how our forester is doing and remind them of some of the things that you're saying here at this meeting. See what we can spur on a little bit. You can't rush bureaucracy too fast. But yeah, I'm glad I tuned into you guys. So I have nothing new to add.
Oh, thanks, Ron. That's great. And yeah, no doubt, like everything Carleon and Esther has done for that CWPP project is really super valuable and impressive. So it's awesome to see. Cool, thanks. Ryan.
Hello, everyone. Fuels coordinator for the Conservation Fund. So since I last talked to you guys last month, I met with CAL FIRE, and they agreed to be our lead agency for our VTP project on Oak Ridge, which is about 4,000 acres of shaded field breaks and prescribed burns. There's a lot to be done left in terms of surveys, but for the VTP, I can commiserate with those who are working on it because I finished at least writing my portion of it. It's mostly done, and now I'm just looking to organize all the ARC surveys and botanical surveys and any additional bio surveys we'll need. It's like out for us, we'll need spotted owl surveys every year that we're doing treatments. So it's just one of those things that we're already used to here because we do timber harvest. So it's VTP looks to be basically modeled after that timber harvest process. So fortunately, we've been through that before. Trying to think of anything else for that. Brooke, anyone else who has questions? I've probably been down that road before, so feel free to reach out. I also think a support group would be good, just to have a meeting just to talk about that. In other news, today is my last day with the Conservation Fund. I received a offer with California State Parks in the Sonoma Mendocino Coast District. So I'll be working out of Duncan's Mills, working under Brendan O'Neill. So I look to be probably working with Jason Wells a lot, getting up to speed with all their projects that they've been working on, and then starting to take on my own projects. We have about, I shouldn't say we yet, I started on the 1st of February, but State Parks for that district has about $7.7 million for forest and wildfire resiliency stuff. So throughout all those state parks, kind of west of 101 in Sonoma, Mendocino counties, we'll be able to use that funding and move forward. We'll also be hiring about 4 to 5 forestry assistants and technicians for that type of work. So if you know people who are interested in getting into that type of work, you can put them in contact with me once I am working for state parks in like 2 weeks. But besides that, that's all the updates I have. Oh, I've also worked on Forest Health Grant. So if anyone has questions about that, I can help. I applied twice. We didn't get it, but at least I know now what not to do in terms of submitting those grants and what CAL FIRE is looking for. And I was also up at Creighton Ridge with Devin and Judy this weekend, and that was a lot of fun. Only 3 acres, but still a good training and good meeting new people that I haven't met yet in the region. So that's all I got.
Okay, great. Thank you. And congratulations on your new job. Almost.
Thank you.
Future new
Good.
job.
I accepted the offer, so it's there.
There, great. And Erica, good morning.
Yeah, congrats, Ryan, and nice to see everyone. I am now over at the city of Sonoma, so I have a small celebration to make there. As a volunteer, though, I'm really excited to announce that I'm creating, in partnership with a couple other leaders, Climate Circles Book Club, and we're partnering specifically with the regional library. And so the structure is such that we're hoping to highlight awesome activities that are adapting to climate change and doing regional planning. And so everything that you do completely applies. So if you have outreach efforts or objectives, I welcome you contacting me. These will be monthly on Wednesdays from 6 to 7 with a mic check for speakers and facilitators at 5:30. It's for anyone familiar with facilitation with public conversations around climate change. It's a lot of just welcoming people to the conversation. It's holding conversations. It's using the prompts that are provided. And the book is called All We Can Save. And we're doing it over 10 months, reading about 50 pages every month. And the questions are such that people aren't even really required to read the reading. It's really just a starting point to have these kinds of conversations around how climate change is going to change the experience that we have in the world. So I'm going to drop a couple of links in the chat and share my screen really briefly. Hopefully this will work. The original site is here. It's the first of the links that I shared, and thumbs up if you got that in the chat. Awesome. And then here in Climate Circles Book Club, we've got the very first event is in February on the 16th. It's a bilingual conversation, so there will be breakout groups that are specifically in Spanish, but concurrently there will also be a specific window, just very similar to how in county meetings they have translation available. And so we have 3 translators that are currently going to be holding court and making that happen in partnership. And I'm super excited to be providing that. So here is the very first link. We've got the ability to highlight your partnership if you do want to be a speaker. And speaking is an abbreviated highlights reel of the work that you do, or a deep dive in a short amount of time into a specific aspect of what you do. And so that looks like a 5 to 7 minute presentation near the beginning. So in total, we could probably get you in and out in 10 to 20 minutes total if you didn't want to stay for the conversation. Currently, partners are Environment and Conservation Works, but we're actively recruiting more. And we are also recruiting for facilitators who feel comfortable talking to people or feel like it's a way in which they want to be giving back to the Sonoma County and the greater region at large. And so here are some of the discussion questions. So for those kinds of facilitation questions, do you see yourself as a climate feminist? This book is a really great grounding in bringing diversity to the conversation. And I just adore this book. And the audiobook is perhaps even better. And so in case my enthusiasm doesn't go strongly enough or anything like that, I also absolutely adore the women that are the editors of this professional tome because they bring in so many different perspectives and experiences through different authors that are writing different essays or poems or different pieces in this book, editorial pieces, things like that. But the two editors are Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson, who wrote Elizabeth Warren's Ocean Policy for Adapting to Climate Change, and then Catherine K. Wilkerson of Project Drawdown, or maybe formally Hold That Thought. And then here's the Spanish version of the same enrollment piece. And then this is the overall program. So it's again, third Wednesday, 6 to 7. Here's the English in that same piece. And if you'd like to register, this landing page, which is the third link that I shared for the English version, is just a great way. Now, to acknowledge every speaker and facilitator that we're going to have, we did make it so that individual registration is possible. And that's kind of done by a fluke of the regional library's website as well, to highlight those things, as well as, but one of the things that it's going to give us is a really clear number of who is going to be in the room and what kind of attendance we can expect. And so if you do choose to facilitate or you do choose to speak, which we totally welcome, we can give you some of the specifics of who we expect, kind of their background by doing a quick internet search, as well as just the numbers. So you could even tailor your talk or tailor your expectations. How's that sound? Cool. Thank you very much for having me. It's great to see all of your faces.
No, sounds great. Thanks, Erica. And is that a virtual meeting or in person?
Oh, that's a really good thing to highlight. This is virtual because COVID is very freaky and very fluid and very airborne. So that's why it's remote. And that also allows us to have professionals like you feel comfortable to speak and not have to show up someplace across the county.
Yeah, that does make it easy. Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely. Thanks.
All right, great. And Sophia, hi. I don't know, this might be one of the first times we've had you at this meeting, but feel free to introduce yourself if you're there. You might have stepped away. And if that's the case, I'll come back to you soon. I also have a phone number that's 293-6628.
I think that's Jill.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, why don't we just hold that thought and we'll come back for more sharing. I think next on our agenda is just talking about grant opportunities. And I know we did a lot of that in the intros, but if there's anything left that people have not had the chance to share about, new things on the horizon, or like maybe just wanting to take a poll, like who's applying for this, so that you know who out there is going through the same thing you are, or now's a good time to bring those up.
Can I get a raise of hands of how many people are going to be applying to the Vegetation Management Grant Program?
I think the RCD is playing, yeah, for one project.
Nice, good, that's great.
Cool.
I tell you, I mean, go ahead, Lynn.
Just in terms of grant projects, one of the things I'd like to say, speaking from the Upper Mark West watershed, is that we're small, we're volunteers, and we're trying to broaden our network. So we've been in conversation and working on grants with the Diamond Mountain Fire Safe Council and the Spring Mountain Fire Safe Council, which reaches us across into the Napa County line. And we're also on the west side in conversation with the people that are up at Foothills Ranch and their Property Owners Association. So if there are other people, and I'm looking at Devon and Pepperwood and thinking there are other kind of adjacent folks that sometimes it would really behoove us to spread our borders and work together. So we're very open to working across our watershed into other neighborhoods and other communities. So as we move forward on grants, I just want to say that we would love to partner with other people as well. We have a really good relationship with RCD, and it's nice that we can come to them with ideas in community organizing, and they can do the application because we don't have the capacity for that. But we certainly would be happy to partner with other people. And right now we're looking at vegetation management, CAL FIRE, and a few others. So keep us in mind if you have, especially if you have staff, and we can work together.
Lynn, we would absolutely be totally interested in working with our neighbors. So feel free to reach out, and we'll keep you in mind. I think for this grant application, given 2 days, probably not likely to rearrange, but absolutely in the future, I think it's something we're very interested too. And I know for grantees, it looks more appealing the more community you have together. So absolutely.
Nice. And Kim, did you want to say anything else about the program?
I just want to say that I've been with the working group since I landed in Sonoma County in 2005. And so it's been just a delight to see the development of all these different projects. And it was this kind of like interaction with all the different groups represented on the Sonoma County Forest Conservation Working Group that just really inspired me to pursue this position with Ag and Open Space as the Vegetation Management Grant Coordinator, because it really serves a purpose to provide funding to all of the fantastic and diverse projects that everyone's working on. So I just want to give a hats off to what the working group has been able to accomplish over the years. And really, I am inspired every time I hear you guys on this monthly event.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great. And I think, yeah, I guess I just wanted to, because I mentioned it earlier in the meeting, but I think some of you came on late, but NCRP, North Coast Resource Partnership, has an opportunity out now for folks who would like assistance developing project concepts for grant proposals. I think it's kind of on an ongoing basis. Though they have sort of like a cycle happening now that if you need help putting together a proposal, they can link you up with someone, a technical assistant who can help you scope your project and maybe even do some of the grant proposal writing with you. I think the level of help is dependent on your level of need. And so that's for the whole North Coast. So they work with some, pretty disadvantaged and need communities that are mostly outside of our county. So it might be kind of competitive in that way, but it's a really great service. And it's something that I understand is supposed to be, it's kind of like the beginning of a long-term sort of like grant writing assistance program that they're starting. And it sounds like Judy applied for this last year with the help of Sonoma RCD, and so maybe it's not brand new, but the feeling I get is that it's still kind of new. Yeah, if I haven't already sent that out to everyone, I will send it out again, and just consider it if you find yourself needing help putting a proposal together. Then that Coastal Conservancy application, when does that due, or what's it already due? Who's applying for that?
Yeah, that was due last Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think there was a disclaimer in their RFP that you can turn in a proposal after that date, although the sooner the better.
Kind of
Yeah,
thing.
it was like a pre-proposal.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's good to know. So who is applying for that?
Parks is.
Okay, cool. All right, great. Well, just so you know, you guys have each other in case you need help understanding things down the line. Great. And are there any other grant opportunities that we haven't talked about yet? I guess CAL FIRE.
I believe there's another round of EQIP funding in late February as well. I think they extended and added an additional one because there's such high demand this year, which is also the demand's increased, but the funding hasn't necessarily increased. So this actually the Cwpp funding that used to be not as competitive is getting more and more competitive.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a good thing because that means more people are doing projects.
Yeah, that is good. And hopefully more funding will come our way too. And then Cal Fire, we have the fire prevention and the forest health. Who's applying for fire prevention? Just curious. Anyone this time? Okay, great. Yeah. And then forest health. I think Ryan, you had put in a forest health proposal.
Yeah, so we applied in the past 2 times they threw it out there. I was going to do it again this year, but with my transition, that kind of lapsed there. I think Conservation Fund will still attempt to do it, but I'm not sure. But related to that, if anyone else is looking at that opportunity for, neighbors of state parks, I think state parks is in a unique situation where we actually have funding for the time being. So I think it's a good time to reach out because state parks will actually be able to match or at least provide some level of contribution versus times in the past where they've maybe had to say no just because they didn't have the staff or funding to do so. So keep that in mind, and I'll be there. So I'll be happy to work with people if anyone's looking to do that. I get a lot of opinions already about state parks and what needs to be done on them, and I'm not even starting there yet. So I think it's a good thing to keep talking about it.
Great. Well, yeah, I know some folks in West County who are have developed plans for the Willow Creek Road in and out of the park. And so maybe I'll put them in touch with you. We can start seeing if that's a possibility for this year and maybe next year. I know those are really huge applications and take time.
You definitely do, but I'm definitely willing to help and see what we can give in terms of assistance, or at least my experience of applying for them in the past. So.
Yeah, Ryan, I had a comment on that. I was going to reach out to Brendan and talk to him about some kind of partnership we could develop with our Monterey Redwoods property and the Willow Creek State Parks complex that is there. But I'll wait until you are officially started at State Parks and then I'll reach out to you. But yeah, I think there's a lot there that we could partner with. And then there's also Camp Meeker, CWPP, and an Occidental CWPP. So I think there's a lot going on in that area, and there are a number of grants that we've kind of been we've identified that would be good for partnerships, large landscape level type projects, forest restoration, shaded fuel breaks, prescribed fire, all that good stuff. And one of our, my coworker, Monona Hevland, has been kind of tracking all those different grant opportunities. And so there's a couple of those that we could identify and that we would want to follow up with you guys, State Parks, to see how we could partner together for a proposal. Probably this next winter, I think, is when a couple of the grants will be open again. So we'll be in touch.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, Brendan was under the impression that, oh, we have funding, so we don't really need to be worried about applying for grants. But I think just applying for grants anyway is still a great, backup. It's good to have that. It's good to at least cover our bottom line, because then that other money can be spent elsewhere on more projects, because we all know how fast $1 million can be spent on fuels projects.
Yeah.
I was thinking too about maybe talking with other recipients of the the forest health grant, because I think the requirements, reporting requirements are pretty strenuous. And I feel like I remember in years past, Mendocino, RCD Mary Maeda, she's the forester for the RCD, she said it was harder. It was more work than it was worth almost, and there's like all this greenhouse gas calculation that you have to do. And it's just, it's hard to keep that monitoring going, and it's also hard to qualify because they need to see greenhouse gas reduction. So it was just a little bit trickier than they were, more than they were ready for.
Yeah, it's very difficult because you need the carbon portion of it, where in the end your action has to increase the amount of carbon that's being taken up. So you can't just cut trees down and call it good. You have to plant I think that's what a lot of people have done, is just make sure to include tree planting. So trying to find places where they do need trees versus they have too many trees already. And the other thing I found that is projects who have CEQA done already are almost good to go. They get the check mark, they are accepted first. And so the organizations that put the money down to get CEQA done beforehand, you're basically going to get picked. I mean, that's at least what I've determined, because the Conservation Fund didn't want to do the CEQA. And I think that's mainly the reason why we didn't get it 2 times in a row. It's because we didn't want to go and put that money forward, which I understand it's a big cost. But in terms of CAL FIRE, if they see that, it's like, well, that's most of the work that's already been done. So it's shovel ready in that case. Trying to think of anything else with carbon. No, I think that's it.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I think I heard planting was kind of like the only way to achieve that. Yeah.
Right, because if you're using prescribed fire or thinning, you're basically returning carbon to the atmosphere or some other way. So they want it to be locked up in the woods.
Hey, Brooke, I just wanted to follow up on your comment about collaboration with state parks and the Monorio Redwoods. The vegetation management program is supporting the 3 camps proposal, and it's largely defensible space down in the valley, but we are encouraging them to look at it at a larger scale. So connectivity to St. Dorothy's Rest, they have some land that may be interested in regional parks and as a partner, and then the Alliance Redwoods, and then also kind of connecting to a series of shaded field breaks to protect Occidental and Camp Meeker. I think that would be really valuable to consider that kind of collaboration.
Yeah, if you have any contacts for those organizations, that would be great if you could send them my way, and I can follow up.
I can help with that. Yeah. Sorry, I worked a lot with that group last year, so I got all of them in a shared email. I'll forward on to you.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, great. The rest of let's see, the next item on the agenda is our steering committee report. We had pretty brief steering committee meeting. Is there anything, Kim, that you wanted to report out from that?
No, I think we've done a lot of thought about when to do our next series of field trips, and because of the county restrictions, we decided to push back till February. So that took a lot of discussion about, what I think is going to be a great series of workshops, or just when we can get together again. I think that's the main issue.
Yes. Yeah, I think we decided to push everything back a month since the health order restricts gatherings through February 11th. And I think it's like outdoor gatherings of 100 people, which we would never get anywhere close to that, but still it's like, just out of respect for where we're at with everything, it might be nice to hold off. So yeah. And that takes us into our outreach updates on events and such. And so like Kim said, we're working on organizing a couple different field trips. One of them is the riparian vegetation management workshop. We're looking at end of February for that. And I'm working with the potential hosts now to take us to the Glen Ellen area to look at a couple different properties there, Calabasas Regional Park, Bouverie Preserve, which is owned by Audubon Canyon Ranch, and Glen Oaks Ranch, which is who owns that property again?
Sonoma Land Trust.
Sonoma Land Trust. We have so many orgs in the Sonoma Valley. It's hard to keep them all straight. And then Sonoma Ecology Center has a couple private properties that they're also interested in taking us to. So all this is to look at projects near to or affecting riparian areas, and just kind of talking about the complexities of working within the riparian. So I'm excited for that. And that's really an event that's for Forest Working Group members more than for the public, just so that we can kind of have our own conversation about all the ins and outs of permitting, protections, fire, you know, how do all these things work in the riparian. So yeah, keep tuned on that. And then we also have a forest health project or tour for the Sonoma Coast in the Fort Ross area that we're planning with state parks, and that will be the Salt Point State Park, and we'll be looking out to March for that event. And after that, Peter Locourt is going to take us to the Pacific Union College in Angwin, Napa County, to look at the work that he's been doing on his forest, and that'll be March, April. And after that, I have on the list Pepperwood Preserve with Michael Glogly, maybe. So that's a ways out. We can still talk about that. I think that'd be really awesome to see what you guys are up to out there.
I think the idea was hopefully we would have our bin units burned. So let's check in about that.
Okay, yeah, we'll keep it tentative then. Sounds good. And then I don't have on the top of my mind or in front of me a list of speakers to invite for our next meeting. So if anyone has a speaker that they'd like or a topic they'd like to explore in the last half hour of our February meeting, you know, drop me a line, or you can say out loud right now, like, oh, I'd really love to hear about this, and this would be, you know, so-and-so would be a great speaker. I'm looking for suggestions. So yeah, last month we heard from Robert Aguero about Cwpp, and before that was, well, Devin, you talked about the all the monitoring work that's happening out of Pepperwood. That was awesome. So, you know, kind of along those lines. And I do have an old list somewhere that I can pull up if we run out of ideas. But
we will never run out of ideas, I'm sure. One of the things I think is important to put on the radar is that there's several different tools that are being developed by various agencies like Sonoma Water and the Climate Resiliency Action Committee, I guess they're technically, they're not a department, but they're part of the county family. And so the tools that I'm referring to is one's called the Decision Support Framework, which is Sonoma Water's project to look at helping to implement or use the fuel mapper that Pepperwood and ICFAL developed. That's a great tool for a parcel level analysis of what types of fuels and what kinds of treatments might be appropriate. And then there's another part of that, which is more of a landscape level tool that's being rolled out as we speak, and trying to get tested and really get some more input. But I think by the end of maybe spring, we should start seeing those tools ready to roll out. And it'd be really great to have Susan Hayden as a presenter for that, or whoever she thinks is the most appropriate folks to report out on that. And then the other plan that's being developed is called the Natural and Working Lands Climate Adaptation Plan. And so that's a county effort to look at how climate change can be mitigated, and how we work on those natural systems and working lands to be able to help mitigate and adjust to how climate change is going to affect us all. So those will be great plans to be considered in the future. Anna Yip is one of the key people for that, and she's part of the county family, as well as Barbara Lee is the director of that program.
Great. Awesome suggestions. Any other ideas? I guess one that we just talked about was like getting more clarity on what it takes to have a Cal VTP project. That might be useful. Although I think we just got some good insight from Ryan. Are there programs that people want to hear from like the program manager to like just kind of get more insight on? Might be a good thing to explore.
I suppose we could do something on prescribed fire. Maybe get Sasha or Brian Peterson to at least check in or give a brief presentation on like how things are progressing in the county, any new initiatives that I have, ways to collaborate with Good Fire Alliance. It's something we could throw in there.
That's a great idea.
One thing I've been thinking about lately, and talked a little bit to Brock at Occidental Arts and Ecology, is the gully stuffing that he's been doing out there. I know we've brought it up a couple times, but it would be interesting to hear a presentation from him. And I know he's offered a lot of people to go out and to Occidental Arts and Ecology too. But I think it's interesting, and it's like it deals with fuels and also erosion stuff. So.
I would really second that. I thought maybe you'd already done that and I'd missed it. But after the October storms that we had in our fire-prone areas, the amount of erosion and gullies and landslides have kind of exacerbated. So what they're doing out there with putting cut materials into the gullies and building those up over time, I'd love to have a more in-depth understanding of that.
Do you all feel like that's something that we could talk about over Zoom, or do you feel like you'd need to see it in the field?
I mean, a Zoom meeting would be helpful, but it seems like one of the things that a field site would probably be the best. Because I know there's some nuance and details. I just had a brief conversation about it, but and I know it can be done wrong and cause issues. So there's concerns about not doing it properly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I believe Brock recently gave a presentation on that as part of that forest management planning webinar. I forget what it's called, but Mike Jones is also on that, and so Brock did talk about the brush packing, and yeah, I think it's obviously he gave a great overview, and he's a dynamic speaker, but I think to see it on the ground would be really helpful, especially for us, because you know we can handle those details, and to be able to see it firsthand, see how it's implemented, then we can quickly take those techniques, if they'll work for us, and start implementing that into our projects.
Super.
Yeah, I think
And
you're
I would
referring.
agree.
I think you're
I saw
referring
that
to-
presentation, so there were just a few slides, and that was kind of a teaser. But I remember
Yeah.
when we went out to the property in Calistoga and saw the work on the ground, it was altogether different seeing the techniques that they applied on the ground than what we had seen or heard about verbally.
I had Brock tour me, and I got to see that work, and it was unfortunately early in my career, and so I didn't get to really fully understand the nuances, and I would totally appreciate seeing the nuances again, and would recommend it over a presentation, just because of actually seeing how the weaving and the interlocking structures that he creates and the in those transitional ecological zones is really, really cool. Another thing that I've been thinking about, not to interject or change the subject, is that there's a lot of intersections with other restoration practices that are related to riparian and riverine systems. And specifically, there's a huge push to put more complexity into streams and creeks and rivers. And I got trained up on large woody debris installation. And one of the barriers to that is access to wood of various sizes. And it sort of seems like there's this natural partnership that could happen between the two different efforts towards fire resilience and creek restoration. And so I would love to hear more from, is it Turtle Island? It's Turtle, forgive me, I'm struggling. But Annie over there has done a bunch of research, and SRF is at the height of this as well. So that's the Salmon Restoration Federation. And I'm planning to go to their conference too, in case anybody would like to carpool in April.
Nice, super cool.
Brandon led a great tour out at Willow Creek for the state parks project, where they're introducing large woody debris into creeks on that property. And that was really helpful to see it on the ground.
Right. Cool. Okay, well, that's a really good list for me to start with. If anyone has any other ideas, just send them on, but that is plenty for now. Great. And I think that's the end of our agenda. Are folks okay with wrapping a little early today, and we can get on to our busy beginnings of the year? Really nice to see everyone. All right, take care.
Thanks, Adriana. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, take care, folks.
Yeah,
Have a
take
good
care.
day.
See you in February.
See you next time.